Have you ever wondered if the advice you're following to get better at drumming is wrong? Well, I think a lot of it is, and it's holding you back. In fact, I know it is because in 2022, I started using a new system to teach drummers, and it skyrocketed the drumming of thousands of my students. So in this video, I'm going to give you the exact blueprint to fix your hand and foot technique and skyrocket your coordination, grooves, and fills, no matter how long you've been drumming, so you can finally play the way you hear in your head. Timestamps are below so you can skip around because this video is a compilation of my best drum lessons here on YouTube. But if you haven't watched one of these videos before, watch this video in order and don't skip anything. When I say don't skip anything, I mean actually implement and do the things I recommend you do, and you'll see your drumming take off. Let's start with posture. The first step to all of this is to get our posture comfortable and our arms as relaxed as possible. Set aside your sticks, set aside your drums, your drum set, your practice pad, set it off to the side a little. That'll do. Okay, I want you to begin by sitting up, relaxed, shoulders back, spine straight in your chair or drum throne. So once you're sitting up straight, I want you to shake your arms out like this. Get them as loose, and I like to say jiggly as possible. And I want you to let them drop. When you're here, I want you to feel that your entire upper arm, lower arm, forearm, hands, fingers, all of this stuff is completely relaxed. Pretend that it's just jello, as loose as possible. Shake it about. And I want you to just let them drop at your side. Both hands. Stay here for a moment and feel what this feels like. And look down at your hands and arms and look down at your body. Pay attention to this feeling, because this is the feeling you want to be able to call upon as we move to the next steps. This feeling of total relaxation. I probably look ridiculous right now as I'm talking to you, but this is exactly what we want. Just total loose, relaxed limbs. Next step is to bend your elbows 90 degrees. Make sure your arms are completely straight down, and then bend your elbows forward so they're parallel with the floor. You'll also notice that I am dangling my wrist. So I haven't straightened it yet. So this is step 3, is to straighten the wrist, and I want you to let it drop again. Straighten, drop. Because we want to be deeply aware of how much relaxation or tension we are adding to every mechanic that we're going to work with. Now that you've done that a couple times, go ahead and straighten your wrist out. And let's do the same thing with the fingers. So our elbow is 90 degrees. Our elbow is also at our side. We're not holding it back. We're not holding it forward. And we're not holding it out like this. So it's dropped like that. I want you to then straighten your fingers out and then let them drop. Straighten, drop. Straighten, drop. You can hold your arm up like this now. When you have your fingers nice and relaxed and loose, that natural position is going to be very close to how you want to hold the stick. Because what we're aiming for with all of the technique fundamentals we're covering today is to be as relaxed as possible, as much as possible, with every part of our body as possible, while still executing what we want to execute on the drums. So that means our grip should barely change from this total relaxed state. Oh, and real quick, you can grab the entire technique checklist we're covering totally free. So grab it below if you want to lock in perfect technique for good. So let's pick up a stick, hold out your dominant hand, nice and relaxed. We're going to start by placing our thumb and index finger on the fulcrum point of the stick. Now, where that is along the stick is very important, but we're going to cover that a little bit later. For now, just know that it's approximately a third of the way up the stick from the butt end. That's where we're going to put our thumb and index finger. So from this position, we want the entire pad of our thumb along the stick. And then our index finger, we want the DIP joint, which is this last knuckle. We want the side of it to be at the same point opposite our thumb. The next step is to place the back of the stick against the fleshy part of your palm. Now, we're looking to place this in the middle of the fleshy part of your palm. The stick should not touch the bony part here, and should also not touch this area out here. We want it right in the middle. Not here, not out here, in the middle. After that, go ahead and gently wrap your back fingers around the stick. Make sure that the pads of all your fingers are on the stick, the exception being your index finger. That will be the side of the DIP joint for your index finger that's in contact with the stick at the fulcrum point, about the same height as your thumb. You should notice a gap between your index finger and your thumb. This is something really important to remember. This gap, you can just stick a finger in there. This gap is the most important thing to keep in mind while you're playing and practicing and developing these fundamentals. You want to make sure that gap is always there. And there are a couple of common mistakes that you want to be aware of coming up. Whenever you go to practice, whenever you go to play, whenever you're working on technique, working on different stroke types, whether that is molar stroke, French grip rebound, whether it's doubles, open close, all these techniques that you should learn. Whenever you're practicing or playing, it's really important, especially in the beginning, especially right now, to go through what I like to call the stick grip checklist. The stick grip checklist is a set of parameters to check off, kind of like a pre-flight checklist on an airline, before a plane takes off at the airport. I don't even know much about planes, but they check everything about the plane to make sure it's safe, make sure it's set up optimally for a safe flight before they take off. And so that's the same idea here. We want to make sure that we have our technique nice and relaxed and avoid a bunch of mistakes that can hold us back before we ever play a note. So before you play a note, after you play a note, these are the times to use the stick grip checklist. Think of it as a pre-flight and a post-flight checklist. Here are a couple of mistakes that you want to make sure you're not making before you play, while you play, after you play. Number one is closing the gap. So instead of keeping this gap open, some drummers close the gap. And if you try it right now with me, you should immediately feel a lot more tension in your forearm. And then if you open that gap back up, you're gonna feel it all relax. So closing the gap is the first mistake you wanna make sure you never do. Always keep that gap open, always keep it nice and relaxed. I want you to memorize everything we're going over here, so I made a PDF of all these grip fixes so you don't forget a single detail. Link is below if you want to grab it. Number two is putting the index finger on top of the stick. Now, there's a couple of special cases where you might want to do something called, I think, a stick shot, where you bury the stick into the drum head for special effect, but this is probably something you're rarely going to use. So don't even think about that right now, and keep your index finger on the side of the stick, not on top. Make sure you see a little bit of your index finger dangling below the stick. Number three, don't let your thumb slip off the stick. I want you to strive to keep the entire pad of your thumb in contact with the stick. That's going to give you the most control. If your thumb slips off, then you start losing control and you compensate by gripping the stick tighter in other places. And again, that causes pain, that causes tension, and over a long period of time, it causes permanent injury. So we want to avoid all these things by maintaining contact for control, but staying relaxed with our grip and making sure that gap is always there. It's important to remember that you can't force progress by doing more of the wrong method. If you've been making these mistakes or any of the rest we're going to be talking about in this video, the number one thing you should do is fix them. Watch this video 10 times if you have to, and really focus on getting each step under your belt until it's natural and automatic to not make these mistakes. Because doing more of the same mistakes only makes things worse. Bad habits break drummers. Mistake number 4 is when the stick rotates out this way in your palm. It creates a lot of difficulty in manipulating the stick, and the arc and way you have to use the rest of your arm and body can contort in different ways and make it really difficult to control everything. So if you hold the stick out here, correct that to the middle of the fleshy part of the palm, right there. Mistake number 5, and this might be second most important in my book. That is when you let your back fingers off the stick. If your back fingers are coming off the stick and not in contact back here, then this is one of the most important things for you to fix and work on in terms of the stick grip checklist, that pre-flight, post-flight checklist. Make sure before you go to play a note that your back fingers are touching. Make sure during the path of the stick and the motion, your back fingers are touching, and make sure when you recover with that rebound or whatever the stroke type happens to be, make sure your back fingers are again on the stick, not off like this. This is really important to get down now, because when you're learning the techniques for double strokes, if your back fingers aren't able to move and stay with the stick, this is really going to hold you back. Keep these ideas in mind as you practice these next steps, and remember them throughout all the techniques that I'm going to teach you. Right now, we're going to start with getting a grip on, well, what you need to know about grip. Now, there are a number of different grips you can use on the drums, including German grip, American grip, French grip, and others, and it's important to know these, but today we're going to focus on German grip. Getting these first steps is essential to playing proper Moeller technique and open-close technique. And you'll need both in order to play around the drum set effortlessly with power, speed, and most importantly, control. When you're playing German grip, after you're holding the stick, go ahead and get back to our playing position of sitting straight up, arms relaxed, elbows bent 90 degrees, and then you're holding the stick with the wrist straight. When you're at this point, you can drop your wrist a little bit onto the pad. And German grip specifically is when the back of your hand is pointing up towards the ceiling. You're going to notice that your thumbs are to the side and your back fingers are under the stick. With German grip, the main mechanic you're going to be using is the hinge of your wrist. So you're going to use your wrist as the primary driver of this force for now. There's more to it later. But for now, we want to focus on wrist strokes, and that means using only your wrist and not your elbow. In fact, using your elbow at this point is mistake number 6. I want you to avoid, whenever possible, playing from your elbow with your wrist locked. For the most part, even when we start to engage the elbow later down the line, you're still using your wrists and your fingers more than the elbow is being used. So make sure for now you're not playing like this. You want to isolate and use just your wrist. The trick to this is, as you go to play and you're resting the tip of the stick on the drummer pad, take a finger or 2 fingers or your whole hand and place it above your arm, touching right below the wrist, and slowly, very slowly, move your wrist up and down. This way you can make sure that you're gently reminding yourself to isolate and just use this mechanic. And as I mentioned before, make sure you're watching your grip and using the stick grip checklist, making sure the gap is there, making sure your thumb is on, the back fingers are on, everything we already covered. At this point, you can experiment with rotating your forearm and wrist a little bit to find the optimal angle for moving the stick up and down comfortably. We want to find the path that is the most natural, relaxed, and without tension for your body. Everybody's body, hands, arms, everything is a little bit different. It's all relative and it's all a little bit different for everybody, but the most important parameters are stick grip checklist and making sure that you feel relaxed and you feel at ease and there's no tension in your movements, there's no strain. If you feel pain in the way that you're moving back a little bit with your wrist, something's not right and we want to change and alter that gently, slowly, and experiment to find the correct angle of everything that works for your body. Keep going back to this step to lock in the muscle memory of these wrist movements. The number one thing most drummers aren't taught is A, how critical it is to understand muscle memory, and B, exactly how to take advantage of our muscle memory to get the most out of our practice. The more you learn to use your muscle memory to its fullest, knowing the right techniques like this and how to practice them correctly, and knowing the right way to program these techniques into your subconscious, the faster and further ahead you're going to leap. Rebound strokes are not just important on their own, they're also an essential step towards learning tap strokes, control strokes, Moeller technique, open-close technique, and in general, getting a great sound out of your drums and cymbals. You'll use rebound strokes for so much, and I'll share more about that in a little bit. You'll play the same things you play, but faster, more fluidly and with less effort when you master rebound strokes. Rebound strokes build off of the wrist strokes we started to learn earlier. Rebound is also a big part of French grip finger strokes, and I want you to learn that soon. But first, let's continue focusing on the German grip version, and then you'll learn how to get the dynamics under complete control. What that means is we're gonna start again with German grip. That's back of the hand up, thumb to the side, and using wrists only, get it all the way up to a comfortable position. Don't wrench your wrist really far back. If you feel that tension, you've gone too far. For me, this is approximately 45 degrees. If this is 90, it feels a little much. I just do 45 when I'm practicing these wrist-only rebound strokes. There's other ways to get the stick higher and keep that comfortable, but we want to master this version first. So when you bring your wrist back, and for me that's about 45 degrees, I want you to hold it here as your new starting position. And then slowly bring the stick down so that the tip of the stick touches the pad. There's a very low angle for the stick. It's not flat against the pad, but just a little bit raised from there. Once you're in contact with the pad, make sure again, stick grip checklist. Watch for the gap, feel the back fingers, make sure the thumb isn't slipping off. Make sure your hand is relaxed and not gripping the stick tightly. Then slowly bring the wrist back up to its starting position. Going back to the subject of muscle memory, it's so important to do this slowly a whole bunch of times to make sure you're doing it with these correct parameters in mind and you're doing it in a way that doesn't hurt your body. As long as you're staying relaxed and you don't feel pain and you're coming up, straight up with the stick, and you have all the previous mistakes fixed, just do it slow a bunch of times so that you memorize that feeling. You know what it feels like. You know what to look for as you begin to speed this up. So one more time, start high, go slowly down, come back up. Nice and slow a couple of times. Here's where we actually finally get to have some fun today. And what that means is we're gonna play a note that you can actually hear. And that means, again, we're gonna do the same thing. We're starting high, 45 degrees, but we're gonna come down fast. Here's the tricky part. When you come down fast with your wrist, the stick with a rubber pad or a high-tuned snare drum, yes, some pads are less bouncy. I suggest you get a bouncy traditional rubber pad to learn this technique and really learn to utilize this rebound as much as possible. When you impact that pad or drum or cymbal, the stick wants to bounce back up. The tricky part is letting it. The secret to playing effortlessly is letting the stick do the work. It's going to come back up for you. It's gonna bounce right back up. What you're looking for is when your wrist comes down fast with force. When your wrist comes down, you want to relax totally at that instant. What that looks like is straight wrist, drop it. This is the feeling that you already practiced earlier of just relaxing your wrist, letting it go limp. You want to unlock that wrist the moment the stick impacts the pad. So you're coming down and relaxing. As a quick example, if I practice the proper rebound stroke technique without rebound, if I just play on my leg, it doesn't come up. What I'm doing is I'm coming down with force, using my muscles to come down. You do this too many times, it's gonna hurt, but that's besides the point. At this point, loose, absolutely loose and limp. It doesn't come up. So what we're learning to do when we're utilizing rebound to its fullest is we're learning to not pick the stick up every single time. So we come down only, it bounces back up. We don't have to do the work of lifting our wrists back. It's really nice. On the pad, it looks like this. What a lot of drummers find is that they're not relaxing their hands enough during the rebound. If you have a little bit of tension in your wrist after the impact, The stick wants to bounce up, but you are preventing that a little bit, and that can manifest in a couple of different ways. Most often, there's a little bit of a lilt where it kind of like jerks back up, like that. Instead of it just kind of snaps up if you're totally relaxed. Another important point is that you want to come down fast enough to actually get enough bounce. If you just come down that much, it doesn't really bounce much. So give it some force, but totally relax at the end. And get the action of the wrist moving down and then loosening it up in a microsecond is something that will take a little bit to figure out. But once it happens, even just once, you know it. When that stick comes back right up, there's no question, you're gonna feel it after a little bit of experimentation. If at this point the stick comes off your palm a little bit, that's okay during the rebound strokes. But make sure your back fingers, the pads of your fingers, stay on the stick. Ideally, your goal should be to have the stick start in the same place and bounce back up to that exact same position. We're gonna come back to that in a moment. Spend a lot of time locking in this feeling of the stick coming back on its own and carrying your hand, carrying your wrist, carrying your hand, and your wrist comes up with it. Don't rush this step. It should feel like you're bouncing a ball or dribbling a basketball. And that brings us to our first actual exercise that we're gonna cover today. It's a very simple exercise, but once you've mastered one rebound stroke at a time, we wanna start to put that into a little bit of a routine so you're building up even stronger muscle memory and connections to getting this right every time. The exercise is super simple. Put on a metronome at a moderate to slow tempo. We're gonna play 8 strokes with one hand and then alternate to the other and go back and forth. If you make sure one stroke at a time is perfect before you start to do this in sequence 8 each hand, then over a couple of days of practice, you're gonna feel way more confident and in control over the stick and how it rebounds and how you fit into that picture. While you're practicing this, mistake number 7 is something you really wanna look out for, and that is holding your elbows out. Make sure while you're practicing this that your elbows are dropped and very relaxed at your side. That has to do with how your shoulder is holding or not holding your arm out. So make sure to double check that and let them drop. Not this, not even a little bit, not even this much. Let them drop. You're gonna feel a lot more relaxation. You're gonna feel a lot more at ease while you practice this. Now, another common mistake here is lifting up before each rebound stroke as you're doing this exercise. But I wanna give you a solution to this, and it's going to make a big difference in your control and consistency with your strokes. Okay, don't forget to download the entire technique checklist, and now that your grip won't hold you back anymore, you need to know what to actually practice with that proper technique. Have you ever watched a great drummer and wondered, how do they make it look so easy? Well, there's actually 3 quick steps that make this simple stuff sound professional. And in this video, I'm going to show you what these 3 steps are, and I'm going to give you 5 easy grooves you can pick up today so you can use your new skills to sound like a pro. Now, to show you how this first step works, let's play the first groove. Step 1 is something that's gonna take what you're already doing when you're playing your grooves and make it sound 5 times better. And skipping this step is what causes a lot of drummers' grooves to sound kind of sloppy. And as soon as you do this, it's gonna clean everything up. Here's what step 1 is. What you need to do is you need to practice something besides the beats that you're playing. You need to practice just that, but in a very specific way. And we have a couple different versions of this. Just this or just that. These are 2 different things. And what we're talking about is we're talking about 4-limb unisons, or unisons across different sets of all 4 limbs. All that means very simply is, let me show you with my hands first. Can you do this? So what I'm doing here is I'm playing both hands together at the same dynamic level. And I'm making sure it doesn't flam. So here's back to unison. It's very tricky to do,
And it's the type of thing that a lot of people would almost consider advanced, but if you can't hit both your limbs together at the same time, then why are you trying to play something more complicated? It's something that, although most beginner drummers skip it, it's the type of thing that turns you from a beginner drummer to an advanced professional level drummer, being able to play both hands perfectly in harmony. So getting it just like that is important. I'd really suggest at first you do it on a pad. The reason for that is that if you play it on one drum, there's some weird kind of vibration cancellation that happens, and it sounds kind of peaky and vibrates weird, bounces weird. But playing it on one snare, whoa, it's kind of wacky and feels really weird. So I definitely say do it on a pad at first and do it at different dynamic levels. Bonus points if you do both hands at different dynamic levels. So instead of playing a flam where this is low, this is high, and so naturally the lower hand kind of hits first, that's our flam. Can you have this height difference be the start, but they both reach the drum at the same time? Here's our flam with the left, and here's at the same time. So taking the time, setting aside an afternoon or two to really master that, get an understanding of it with your hands, is step one of step one. And after that, step two of step one is to do this. You need to next get those unisons happening between your limbs. So in this case, I'm playing hi-hat with my right hand and my kick drum. But when I'm doing that, another thing that you should really watch out for is that you can play at different dynamic levels. So we're talking accents and ghost notes, but different levels with the different limbs. So maybe the hi-hat is quiet and the kick is loud, or vice versa. No matter what those volume differences happen to be and how strong you're hitting one or quiet you're hitting the other, they both hit at the same time. It's really crucial. Same with both your hands together, same with your left hand and right foot. So this, don't flam that. Make sure that's really clean. And all this is going to go a long way into making groove number one sound great. So groove number one, I'm only playing one example here, but it just means any of your basic eighth note grooves, make sure you get them this clean. Make sure every stroke is in unison. In this case, I'm getting the snare drum really strong, hi-hat very quiet, and the kick drum strong as well. So check it out. And that brings us to step number two. And step number two transforms any groove a whole heck of a lot. So we're going to use groove number two to demonstrate that. Check it out. Groove number two, very simple. We're literally playing paradiddles, but it's the right hand on the hi-hat, left hand on the snare drum. We're adding a couple kick drums. I'm going to show you what that looks like. But while you're playing this paradiddle, what's especially important, here's our snare drum, kick drum on here, and then kick drum here, snare drum, kick drum occasionally on the E of 4. That's the sequence. What's especially important is that you are experimenting with all this stuff. And what do I mean by that? We're experimenting with our dynamics. Sometimes you might be playing these really small pianissimo kind of stuff. I don't use those terms a lot, but you might be playing little tiny ghost notes. Sometimes you might be playing, let's say, these two right hands on the hi-hat right before the 4, a little bit stronger, and you're going to get different things depending on what you do. I'll play 2 measures quiet with those 2 rights, and then I'll play them a little bit stronger. Here, they got louder at the end right there. And that's the type of thing that lets you kind of like let rhythms dance and little moments pop out and be like fun and a little spicy, right? But we're not done yet with the dynamics. You can use step 2, which is adding dynamics and being really conscious of that. You can use this all over the place. And we're going to use groove number 3 to demonstrate that, because you can use this so many different ways. So groove 3, we're going to be playing 16th notes on the hi-hat, but check out what I do with my right hand on the hi-hat. Also, bonus points if you can name this groove in the comments. So what's going on with my right hand here is that, by the way, this is just one of many variations I'm going to show you. I'm going down and up with this motion here with my right hand. I'm hitting down and specifically hitting the side of the stick on the edge of the hi-hat. And as I lift up with that puppet motion that I talk about all the time, I'm tapping with the tip of the stick on the top of the hi-hat. So this goes hand in hand with step 1, the unison strokes across all 4 of your limbs, and to get all these different motions and techniques to be in line, in unison, in time with your other limbs. So as I go down and up, I sometimes need to get my kick drum with a down with a kick. Sometimes while I go up and hit the tip of the stick on the top of the hi-hat, I need to get the kick drum on that, right? So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. So that's on the and, the kick drum with the up motion, or the down, down, or maybe both of them. Kick, kick, which is with down, up. So there's all these little considerations with your motions, techniques, and movements that you want to get in line. So step 2 and 1 go hand in hand. That's just one of many like dynamic combinations you could do. You could play all of this quiet. You could play with the first of every fourth note accented. There's so many little things to pay attention to in terms of dynamics and in terms of your timing and how you're lining up your limbs that really go a long way towards making your grooves sound really, really pro. So the next thing you need to pay attention to, step number 3, I'm going to show you with groove number 4. I want you to watch and tell me in the comments if you know what step number 3 is to making your groove sound professional. All right, you got your answers below? Well, if you said ghost notes, well, you're kind of right, but that's not the actual answer here. What we're actually talking about specifically starts with ghost notes, but it goes so much deeper than that, talking about articulation. And that means we're not just, dynamics are ghost notes. Ghost notes are dynamics. Articulation is really the sounds you're pulling out of the drums and cymbals themselves, your touch on the instrument and the different options and the whole palette of colors available to you, which means right in these instances, I'm not just playing ghost notes for those in between notes besides the backbeat. I'm moving around to the edge of the drum sometimes. I'm playing the rim. I'm sometimes playing a buzz or sometimes playing a diddle. So buzzes and diddles, for instance, sound great leading into the 1. But when you're thinking about those articulations and dynamics and ghost notes, really pay attention to the internal arc of those dynamics. I'm going strong with the backbeat. I'm going really quiet with ghost notes. And even those ghost notes, those other articulations can have a shape to it. You don't have to just go loud for the backbeat, really quiet for everything else. There can be other notes that pop out just a little bit. So that note a little bit stronger than a ghost note. And then right there, a ghost note right afterwards. So I'm going backbeat, medium, ghost note. Do so much right there. And me in particular, talking about articulation, I really love my ghost notes to be light and airy and not so deep as the normal snare hits. So I often, you're going to find if you watch any of my videos, I'm very frequently moving my left hand over to the edge for a little bit like more overtones, less of the deep fundamental of the middle of the snare drum. I'm playing over here for my ghost notes during grooves. All this means that articulation goes so much deeper than just what drum or cymbal you hit, but it's truly like something you can explore on a really deep level. How many sounds can you get out of the hi-hat? How many sounds can you get out of the snare drum? So groove number 5, we're playing the same beat, but it sounds like this. And how many sounds can I get out of just the different ways I can play my game, my hands and fingers on the snare drum? It's infinite. Do you ever feel like all the effort you put into learning the drums will never pay off? The thing is, you could be right. The way you practice matters, because if you're practicing the wrong stuff, all the time you put in goes to waste. So how do you fix that? I've helped hundreds of drummers level up their playing and even go pro by showing them this one technique that drastically speeds up their progress. In this video, I'm going to show you what this technique is, the tricks pro drummers use to make it sound amazing on the drums, and I'll give you my simple 6-step process to master it so you can actually play what you hear in your head. To start, let me show you the technique in action. So have you spotted the technique yet? You can use it for so much, it's kind of insane. It gets you greater endurance with one hand, with a lot of repeated notes. It gets you faster, cleaner rolls, double stroke rolls, and it makes so many other patterns and rudiments easier and cleaner, pretty much on autopilot. So let's break down what this technique is and how you can use it to completely transform your rudiments and how you apply them on the kit. Get everything so much faster and cleaner. It's something that didn't have a name when I was taught it by my teacher, and it's not the same thing as push-pull. This was something that you've probably heard of, push-pull. A lot of people see my technique and come to me and asking, hey, can you teach me push-pull? And I say, no. I can't teach you push-pull. I can't play it. I don't find it very effective anytime that I've tried to use it, so it's not push-pull. Eventually, with the popularity of push-pull online, I realized, what I'm doing is not really a push and a pull. It's more of an open with the fingers and a close. It seems like a lot of other people in the world have kind of settled on the same name, but it's really rare to see it taught right and even played correctly. So I'm going to break this down for you. Now, the advantage of open-close technique is that you actually get to use two different movements and really muscle groups to move the stick. And when you do that, it means that you can play more efficiently. It means you can play faster in sequence. And it means that you can get everything more even because, well, I'm going to show you what this does to like your stick height. It's actually kind of fantastic. We're going to start with just breaking down what it looks like. And then I'm going to give you the steps to feel it yourself. So nice and slow, it looks a little something like this. The other amazing thing about open-close technique is I would actually call it the cure for, and I'm sorry if there's any watching, the cure for what I call the high school band teacher double stroke technique. Because if you learn drums in middle school or high school, you're typically learning to play double strokes with an adapted buzz stroke technique. If you play a buzz roll, which is all about back finger pressure, so it like starts to bounce really fast, you let off that pressure, so it starts to dribble slower, and then you just stop it after 2. That's the high school band teacher double stroke roll technique. The problem is that the second stroke doesn't bounce very high. So you get da-da, da-da, you get this. Right? It's not very pretty, has a lot of limitations because it's not even, it doesn't have clarity and attention to detail on every single note. On a snare drum, the two side by side, here's our high school technique. And here's our open-close technique, right? Nice and even and crisp. So you get really crisp doubles, and it's so useful not just for on the hi-hat or on the snare, but also any rudiment that has doubles. Paradiddles have doubles in them. Doubles right there. Right, left, left, right, left. And so if you do it for all of your rudiments, you get extremely even, clear paradiddles, paradiddle diddles, Swiss Army triplets. We're going to show you how to do this step by step. We're going to do this really fast. Check it out. I want you to hold the stick in the air. I want you to actually, I like doing this, dropping your elbow so that you're kind of in this T-Rex position. Back finger should all be on the stick, and you should see this gap as well between the thumb and first finger. So all the back fingers on. It's against the hypothenar in the middle of that. And then we're going to first actually take our fingers off, back fingers, I should say. So you have index and thumb on the stick. Next, with another stick, lift up this end. You're not allowed to move your hand. You're not allowed to move your fingers, your wrist, your arm. Only the stick pivots at the fulcrum. So it kind of seesaws. You lift it up and it falls back down, right? That's step 1, the back fingers off. Step 2, put the back fingers back on, like I said in the beginning. So then the back fingers are on. And what you do is you make sure that your hand doesn't move, your wrist doesn't move, your arm doesn't move. The only things that move are the stick, which pivots at the fulcrum, and your back fingers. The back fingers specifically move with the stick, and they get opened by the stick. That's the key thing, so that you're not actually flinging them out, but they're getting pushed open while the stick goes up on the other end. This is why a big thing that you don't want to do is you don't want to do this with only one hand. This stage of practice is 2 hands, 2 sticks. So make sure it's always with both sticks, both hands. If you do it with one hand, a lot of people try to do this, but it's not the same thing. Trying to push it open with your fingers, it's an entirely different mechanic and movement to try to do that, which isn't happening on the drums. So we have to push it up over here, and when that goes up, it goes down on the other side of the fulcrum. It goes down over here, and that's going to push your fingers open. So I really recommend you do it with another stick, like so. So do it really slow. The really key thing is that you don't let any of this move. Your wrist doesn't move, your hand, your arm, it stays completely still. All that moves, stick and your back fingers. So if you can do that slow, I then want you to hold it here. Kind of looks like that, like, like a sock puppet. And you should be able to hold it with your fingertips, like so. And then you close your fingers back to the first position. You can close them slow, you can close them fast, but we have this, hold it, and then close it back. Make sure you close back to a relaxed position. That means you're always going to be coming back to this to practice. So step 3 looks like this. Now, what am I doing? I'm doing step 2, but I'm knocking it up fast. What's going to happen is the stick gets knocked up. On the other side, it goes down, pushes your fingers open with some actual force. And the first thing that's going to happen if you've never tried this before is your wrist is going to go back. Even if you let your fingers open a little, they're not going to open enough. They're going to be too slow opening. Your instinct is going to be to have your hand go back with a stick, like this. Even a little bit right there is too much. What I want you to try to master is getting it to stay completely still. And of course, you got to do the other hand as well. By the way, if you're having trouble mastering this, then the first step is actually mastering your grip and getting that truly right, making sure you're not making any mistakes. I have a free technique fundamentals course that you need to check out and go through. I'll put the link down below for you. So we're doing it fast, and I want you to hold it, then I want you to close it. And when you close it, make sure that you do not squeeze and clench up and get tense, because then you're going to do it on every stroke and you're going to wreck your hands really fast, and you might even be able to do the technique, but you're going to have so much tension as you play your doubles. It's just going to be really rough on you for playing just 10 minutes. So we can't have that. You need to have like a lot of relaxation to be able to play with endurance and be able to endure a 1-2 hour set, right? If you have the core mechanics like we just broke down, well, you need to apply it to the kit. But how do you do that? Let me show you. It looks something like this. Now, what's happening? Instead of knocking the stick up in the air, I'm coming down with either a wrist stroke or some sort of molar stroke or somewhere in between or some combination. And then as I strike the drum, it bounces up, and in the back of the hand, it goes down. It pushes my back fingers open. A really key thing is that your wrist drops. You want to make sure that you don't go down, hit it, open the fingers, and have your wrist go back up like that. No wrist going up. It's got to go down, dropping, and then it's got to hold there. Now, if you open it a ton, your pinky does not reach a stick, and that's okay. But if you go smaller, your pinky stays on the stick, and you're good with that, right? I would recommend when you can keep the pinky on, you use it. But it's not like 100% required to get a good grade here. So you've applied it to the drums, but how do you actually do like a proper double stroke roll with it or apply it to your rudiments? Well, it's going to look something like this. We're going to take that action on the drum and make sure that it's super even in terms of stick heights. When you come down, the stick bounces back up to the height that it was originally. So I'm going to come down and the stick is going to come right back up to this point. And I'm in position 2 with my fingers open. I close my fingers. I'm going to come back up to that point again. I'm using my stick heights as a measurement to make sure both strokes are even. Do that with your right hand and then your left hand for playing double strokes, which means right, open, closed, left, open, closed. With all of that in mind, you want to make sure your stick heights always come down and back up that exact same height. And then you can keep the other stick there so you have a frame of reference. I call this my stick leveling exercises. It works wonders for my students. It's really fantastic. All this together means once you have your stick leveling practice together, you're playing extremely even double strokes. The other important thing to remember is that tempo, it doesn't matter. I don't want you to worry about tempo at all. I don't want you to get this fast. I want you to get this even, and I want you to get it perfect. So don't just think about how do I get this roll to sound fast like a roll. Think about, is this as clear as possible? Every single stroke, every single one completely even in terms of stick height and velocity and volume. So really listen to volume, really listen and watch for your stick heights. I'd honestly recommend quarter notes at 40 or 50 BPM. And the reason for that is you need enough time to make sure every single stroke has all the parameters that we talked about. Every single one has the volume that we need, the height we need, the motions. You need to make sure that your technique has all the other steps in place. So how do you actually get this into your music? Well, the first thing is keep doing that step. Don't move forward until it's completely perfect. And what do you do when it's perfect? Guess what? Don't go faster. I want you to repeat it. The key thing is repetition, because repetition becomes muscle memory. It becomes something that's encoded into your brain, and only once it's encoded into your brain can you repeat it on autopilot. And you need it on autopilot or you're not going to be able to do it fast correctly, and those mistakes are going to keep creeping in because you jumped ahead and tried to do it too fast. And I do not want you going fast. It's so crucial. So how do you know when you do bump up the tempo? Well, you're allowed to speed it up when it's perfect and it's automatic. You have to have both those things in place. If you sit down and you go to practice this for the 5th time and you're like, oh, I can do this just smoothly, naturally, evenly, then BPM can go up just a little bit. If you were at 50 quarter notes, go to 60. If you were at 60, try 65, 70. Eventually, you're going to get to 100 BPM quarters. And the thing is, 100 BPM quarters is the same as 50 BPM eighth notes. So, you know, you could put it at 50, you could put your metronome at 50 BPM, turn on the eighth notes, and play along with it. And then, let's say you're 50 BPM eighth notes, and you gradually rise it all the way up to 100 eighth notes, which is the same thing as 50 16th notes. Then you just gradually get that faster and faster until you're at 16th notes at 100, 16th notes at 120. That's where it starts to sound like, oh, I got the doubles. I'm doing doubles cleaner than ever before, and we're in fantastic shape. That's truly what you're looking for. Now, there's so much you can do with this. Like I said, this is going to transform your other rudiments as well. You should be doing it during your paradiddles. You see that open, closed? Open, closed, left, right, open, closed, right, left, open, closed, open, closed. You should do it during your paradiddle diddles. Right, left, open, closed, right, left, open, closed, open, closed. You should do it during your Swiss Army triplets as a variation, not the main Swiss Army triplet. If you're doing Swiss Army triplets with accents, I don't really do it open, closed, but it's really pretty spicy to do it this way, which is open, closed, and then the same thing in a slightly different displacement with the left hand. So I really like doing Swiss Army triplets in unison. So not a flam, but together with the open close technique, as you can see. Right hand's open, close. And the left hand is, it's hard to say, open, close. If you look at the left. Open, close. Are you sick of your feet not getting any faster no matter how much you practice? Well, there's one simple trick I teach to my students to immediately boost their kick speed with minimal effort, and it's surprisingly easy to learn. So in this lesson, I'm going to show you exactly how this trick works in detail, how to get your foot up to ridiculous speed step by step, and a few easy exercises to use your newfound speed in your drumming right away. By the way, I made a PDF with all the exercises today. Grab it below to follow along. Okay, before I can show you those exercises, you need to learn the technique by itself. The foot technique is very simple. It's based on a heel up technique. Instead of using our ankle, or using your entire leg, we're going to be doing what I call the slide technique. Now, I'm going to show you how to do this step by step. The first thing you need to know is that you need to keep the ball of your foot in contact with the pedal board at all times. You don't want to come off of the pedal and then have your foot hit the pedal board and then the beater hit the drum. It's going to mess up your timing, and it's going to mess up your control and ability to play fast. So at all times, keep the ball of your foot in contact with the pedal board. But we're going to do something special for the slide technique, and that's we're going to pull our foot back. Instead of it being like approximately on the entire pedal board, we're going to pull it back so the ball of your foot is about in the middle of the pedal board or so. You can play with the exact placement and find what works for you. I find it doesn't matter too much. If I'm a little behind the middle, a little ahead of the middle, it's not too important. You're going to play one hit, and then you're going to stay there, and then you're going to, now at slow speeds only, you can kind of hop your foot up and press at the top. If your foot comes off the pedal board a little bit at slow speeds, don't worry about that too much. You should also test right now the real thing, which is hit the middle of the pedal board and then push your foot forward to the top of the pedal board. So the ball of your foot ends up at the top. Here's that again. You can see I'm sliding forward. Maybe if you have super grippy shoes, this won't work, but I've done this barefoot. I've done it with socks. I've done it with most any shoe that I've worn. Now with socks, you're going to wear your sock away. So just be aware of that. So you can do that really slow and put that in time. Another crucial part of this technique that is going to let you play fast for an entire show without getting tired is to rest your heel. Now, that doesn't mean we're playing heel down. We're still playing heel up. But whether you're playing a single hit like this, or you're playing the slide technique, I want you to, on the final hit, rest your heel. It comes down at the same time. So don't hit the ball of your foot, then the heel like this. That's not it. You want to hit both at the same time like this. Then your entire leg is resting for even a couple of like milliseconds, and it really adds up to having a lot more endurance. With the slide technique, you do that for the second hit once you slide forward. You can see how my foot and my leg is just completely relaxed now. The heel kind of hits the heel board here, slides into it at the end. That also means the beater is coming off of the drum, so you're not choking your bass drum, so you're going to have a better bass drum sound. Whether you have a pillow in your bass drum or not, it sounds better if the beater comes off the head, so make sure you're doing that too. Now, onto the first pattern that you're going to get blazing fast. Now, I have my own personal top secret like variations on these patterns that I'm going to show you a bit later, but first you have to master these. Our first pattern, very simply, is a right, left, kick, kick, and we're going to add that slide technique. So slow, you might hop off a little, you might be able to not hop off a little. It's going to look like this slow. All right, that's exercise number 1. Here it is fast. Now you're gonna notice when I start to speed up this technique that I'm just pushing forward and getting 2 hits. So it starts to feel less like a down hit in the middle and then a push forward. It feels just like a push forward. All right, let's keep going with the exercises. Exercise number 2, 3, and 4 or so. We're gonna actually build up different variations of this pattern. We were just playing right, left, kick, kick. We're gonna do all the variations that are 2 hands and then 2 kick drums. So we have right, left, kick, kick. We also have left, right, kick, kick. Okay, so those 2 sound different when you move them around the drums. Check it out. I'm gonna move the right hand around the toms. Right, left, kick, kick. Left, right, kick, kick. Totally different. Then we, of course, have your actual like diddles or doubles. So right, right, or left, left. So right, left, kick, kick. Left, left. Don't forget to grab the PDF with all these exercises so you can level up your chops. Now, there's a couple more really spicy things. And by the way, you can use this in grooves too. I'm going to show you that in a little bit. But first, what you can do with right, left, kick, kick and left, right, kick, kick is you can alternate them. And that just sounds like crazy cool. So right, left, kick, kick, left, right, kick, kick. And just, you know, keep going back and forth. That's really fun. And then move that around. The next variations you need to practice before we get to my top secret variations are the 4-note versions. So the simple ones that we're going to do for now are just right, left, or left, right, both followed by those 2 kicks with the slide technique. By the way, do this stuff stupid slow. Right, left, left. So you really make sure that you're sliding forward with each one and you get all of that super locked clean in time. It makes a huge difference if you spend a couple of days on that before you try to like just go crazy. Now our 4-note variations, right, left. I probably don't even need to ask you. There's going to be some comments down below mentioning who plays this pattern the most, if you know what I mean. So that was me orchestrating the right, left. And that's all there is to it. Left, right. Same thing. So make sure you're practicing both and also make sure you're practicing alternating from one to the other. All right, I promised you my top secret variations on these fills that sound wicked. But first, we got to put this into your grooves. So add that slide technique whenever you have 16th notes above 90 to 100 BPM and you want to get like 2 kicks in a row. So something along these lines. That one's pretty straightforward. Make sure you practice that though, really slow with the kick technique lined up with the really slow ones like this. So you can see I'm doing it even at those speeds where I don't need to in order to get it clean for the higher speeds. But we're not stopping there. You can add this in and kind of sneak in 2 notes. You can put it in time and you can do some triplets. Check this out. And that's as simple as right, kick, kick. Or you can do 30-second notes to put it on the odd but diddle it. And we can get that a little faster.
And you can even get it, like try to sneak it in even faster. And don't worry about the timing, just get it right before that snare drum. And it's gonna be this nice, like right into it. Sounds super cool. And let's see if I can get that, like not strict 30 seconds, but like scrunch up even closer to the snare. Here we go. All right, on to the top secret patterns. These are super simple, but I asked myself, I had trouble with the first couple of patterns fitting them into actual fills and chops and grooves and things like that, because there's a problem, which is you're doing it. You have to do right, left, kick, kick, kick if you want to crash and kick on the one afterwards. So it's a pain in the butt. I'll do it if I have to when I like get into trouble, like something like this. But it's not ideal, and especially any faster than that, and it's quite hard to get 3 kick drums in a row. So instead, I said like, okay, what on earth do I need to do to fix this problem? And I realized that the solution was in displacement. So we're gonna take right, left, kick, kick, and we're gonna displace it, or kind of shift those 2 kicks over one to the left, and that left hand goes at the end. So instead of right, left, it's right, kick, kick, left. And so what that means, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And because you do the doubles not at the very end, but your kick kick has a left to kind of give time for your foot to reset before the next beat, you can end on the 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1. Basically that. Now you can make this triplets, or you can make it 16th notes, 30-second notes, put it in that type of duple grid setting. And that means like the simple one would be just start the 6 notes on the end of 3. We're gonna play 16th notes. So it'll be 1 and 2 and 3 and a 4 and a. Like that. You can see the orchestration, which is right, kick, kick, left, crash. Now, the really great thing about this is you can add a kick to the first note every single time. Right and kick. So it's very easy to like add a kick and crash every time you want to do it if you are so inclined. And you can also finish with a right hand instead of a left hand to crash on your left. Now, don't forget to do the left hand variation. Left, kick, kick, right. So that would be this. And you can trade those back and forth. Check it out. So I'm going to end on the right to start the left-handed version. So it actually flips a little bit. Right, kick, kick, right. And then left, kick, kick, left to lead back to the right hand. And that's this. Now that's the triplet version, but don't forget, if you're in 16th notes, you can fix right, left, kick, kick, make it more easy to play with finishing with your kick drum, finishing with a crash, etc. by doing right, kick, kick, left. And then loop that. So that's 1 ienda, or it's 30-second notes. Now, you could flip that, left, kick, kick, right. I accidentally kind of displaced that one, but as a really basic version, you've got that. But check out what happens when you like go back and forth. Right, kick, kick, right, left, kick, kick, left. Put all that together and do 2 groups of 6 and a group of 4 for 16 notes. And what I'm doing there is right, kick, kick, left. That's 6. Again, right, kick, kick, left. That's 6. Right, kick, kick, left. Finish it.
With thousands of options of what to practice, rudiments, grooves, fills, even all those hand warm-ups, where should you focus to improve your drumming and get better 10 times faster? For years, I've helped beginner and pro drummers alike master the fundamentals, and I've created the best, simple 30-day plan to get comfortable on the drums, level up your speed, timing, coordination, and more. So let's jump into it with week 1. We're going to skyrocket your progress by dividing your practice time into 4 areas of practice. There's actually a huge problem that happens in the practice room for the majority of drummers, and it looks a little something like this. Let's say you're trying to master a song. You learn the beats, maybe it's different in the verse and the chorus. You got to figure that out. You got to memorize it. You know, sight reading's great, but it's really nice to like feel it and know it. And then you're like, oh man, that fill was really tricky. Let me start working on that fill. You look it up. You look it up on YouTube, and well, you learn the fill, and then you learn the second fill. Then you learn the third fill. You got to get the beat better. Oh, wait a minute. The person playing that beat on YouTube, they're doing it different than the record. How do I find that? And it's this huge maze to navigate. And it feels like you're kind of like picking things at random to learn. Like, yeah, we want to be able to play these songs. But the truth is, if you want to be able to play thousands of songs as good as your favorite drummers, you need to work on the fundamentals, and you need to work on these 4 areas. So maybe you've started doing some rudiments. You're having trouble with the doubles. You know, rudiments are great to practice. They're going to be incorporated into these 4 areas, but they're not an area themselves. I'm going to explain that in a minute. You might be working on some hand warm-ups because there's a bazillion of those on the internet. Hand warm-ups are okay, but there's a much better way to get into your practice routine that we're going to talk about and break completely down. Like I said, we're dividing our practice into 4 areas. And the funny thing is, we're actually going to skip area 4 for a little bit and leave it alone. So we're really just doing 3 areas. Now, for a lot of drummers, area 1 is the warm-ups. Area 2 are your rudiments. And area 3 might be your songs, learning your songs, maybe your chops, maybe that's area 4. But it's a way that's going to get you to miss the bigger picture and miss all the details at the same time. So instead of doing like your warm-ups, we're going to do things like right. We're going to do 4 rights, 4 lefts, all that kind of vibe. We're going to do, instead of rudiments, yes, we are going to do singles, we are going to do doubles, but we're not doing rudiments, and I'll explain that in a second. And the songs, we're going to do something totally different. Like, there's some overlap with the last area, area 2, but for area 3, we might be doing things like our hands, we might be doing things with our feet, but it's not songs. It's sometimes beats, but it's not always beats. So let's break down each area. So 1, 2, 3, we're coming back to 4 in a minute. And by the way, with this whole 30-day plan, I've created a custom practice planner that you're going to fill out with me. You can create your own plans and really know what you're going to do each and every day to make progress really fast. So like I said, we're not doing warm-ups. We're skipping them. We're not doing rudiments. We're thinking of them as something else. We're not playing songs, and we're not doing quadrant 4 yet. What we're doing instead of those warm-ups, we are working on our technique, and we're dividing our practice time into 3 or 4 equal chunks. So instead of warm-ups, think of working on your technique. Instead of working on your rudiments, I want you to work on your patterns. Instead of working on your songs, your chops, your grooves, work on your coordination. Coming back to the songs. And that's 4-limb coordination, by the way. Now, this is just week 1, so I'm going to give you some examples of what you could be doing. For where you're at as a drummer, this might be the exact thing you should practice, or maybe it's not. So if you've been playing the drums for, let's say, 0 to 6 months, I'm going to give you specifically what I think you should work on. But as always, take it with a grain of salt. You need to judge where you're at with these things, and I'm going to give you the tools to know like when you should put them away and when you should pick up the next stuff. Here's a general guideline of the type of things in each category. So for technique, that means you're working on patterns like right 4 times and then left 4 times. Or maybe right 8 times, left 8 times. With all of that, it could mean you're working on your rebound strokes, your molar technique, your open-close technique for doubles and other patterns. Maybe it means you're working on your finger technique, your French grip technique or German grip, like finger technique in general, right? Patterns means like getting hand and other limb patterns coordinated and really, really deep into your muscle memory. So you can play them on autopilot, you can play them on instinct, just at the snap of a finger. So things like, of course, doubles, things like singles, but also, you know, we've got our paradiddles. These are all rudiments, of course, but you need to remember that the rudiment chart is a little incomplete. So there's more that you need to practice in terms of patterns. I'm going to give you some specifics for like, if you're just starting out, some of the things that you should work on. We're going to come back to that in a second. So for coordination, we're talking about 4-limb coordination, lining things up. So absolutely in the pattern category, you might include things that have flams or unison strokes. Let's say flam rudiments, Swiss Army triplets, maybe things that even involve your kick drum. We're going to come back to those specifics. We're thinking about lining up our limbs with coordination systems. that create freedom on the drums so you can play whatever you want with all your limbs going and it feels much easier. So things like this. Maybe you're playing all your right hand's on the hi-hat, your left hand is on the third beat, and your kick drum is on beat 1. So that's just the money beat. Boom, dot, boom, dot. That's a really good example of coordination system, working on all of your eighth note patterns. Maybe you got 2 kicks there, boom, boom, dot. So eighth note grooves, you can literally put into a category of, let me make sure like my limbs are coordinated and I have all of these things together. But of course, with all of these areas, the questions become like, well, what specifically do I practice? How many of these exercises do I do? How many of these patterns do I practice each day? How long do I practice them? And of course, when am I ready to move on to the next thing? So however much time you have to practice, I want you to think of it as a pie chart, pizza, whatever you want to say. We're either going to divide it into all 4 areas or just the first 3. And if you don't have a lot of time, I think the first 3 areas are going to be paramount. So that's technique, patterns, coordination. And when you're doing this, when you divide your practice time up, that's for 1 practice session. That's a really important point. So if you have 1 hour, then it's 20 minutes of each. If you have 2 hours, then it's 40 minutes of each of these. Or if you're practicing all 4, it's 30 minutes times 4. I'm going to say breaks are amazing during this time. If you want to practice 20 minutes and then take a 5-minute break and then practice 20 minutes, 5-minute break, and then the last 20 minutes, and you've gotten done all 3, that's fantastic. Those breaks make a big difference in your brain's ability to process what you've just done and make it something that, again, becomes autopilot, becomes permanent, but you need to make sure you're really focusing on doing these things right. Now, here's the real kicker. So let's say you have an hour to practice every day this week. So you have 60 minutes. We're going to divide that into 3 chunks. We're going to do 20 minutes of technique, 20 minutes of patterns, and 20 minutes of coordination. But then what do you do each day of the week? What do you do week 2, etc.? Well, here we go. Week 1 for your technique, you should pick 1. You're only allowed to pick 1 technique to practice for the entire week. So 20 minutes every day, you're doing this 1 technique for 20 straight minutes. For your pattern, you're allowed to pick 1, maybe with some variations, but mostly just pick 1. Pick singles and do it for 20 minutes straight, or pick doubles and do it for 20 minutes straight. Just doubles, 20 minutes every day, 5 or 7 days. For your coordination, you're allowed to pick, this is a little bit different, 1 system or set of exercises. However, if you don't have every single exercise in that set of exercises, that coordination system down perfect, you should just do the ones that you are trying to refine and get really, really nailed. So it might be just 1 single coordination exercise, just 1 single pattern that's involving multiple limbs, or it could be a whole set, and I'm going to give you some examples. So far so good. You're practicing 3 or 4 categories, but only 1 thing for each category, and you're doing this 7 days. That means 7 straight days of singles, 7 straight days of rebound strokes, 7 straight days of eighth note grooves as your coordination system, etc. Maybe it's some Latin rhythms is your coordination. Maybe it's samba, bossa nova, jazz coordination, 4-way coordination. Maybe it's, syncopation or new breed. But this is only week 1. Here's the really beautiful thing. What I want you to do for week 2 is I want you to put away everything from week 1, and I want you to pick 3 or 4 new things, 1 for each category. And so we're going to break this down week by week, 30 days or 4 weeks. It's not 30 days, but you get the point. You know what I want you to do days 29 and 30? I want you to take a break so your brain can process what you're practicing. But let's go ahead and plan your whole month. If you're new to the drums, or even if you've been playing for a year or 2, I want you to go back to the basics and really focus on this stuff. If you're working on your technique, go grab my Technique Fundamentals course that's totally free. I'll put that link down below as well. And you can use that to really hone all these different techniques and make sure you're doing them right. Because if you're doing them wrong, this is not going to help you. The practice will actually hurt you. So if you've been playing the drums for, let's say, 0 to 6 months. Right now, we're just talking about the 3. 1, 2, and 3. We've got week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. For your technique, I want you practicing rebounds week 1. For your patterns, I want you practicing singles. Right, left, right, left. For your coordination system, I want you doing eighth note beats. Super simple. That means hi-hat on eighth notes, snare drum on 2 and 4, and then the kick drum moving around to all the different eighth note combinations. So let's talk about week 2. What are we going to do week 2? Well, for technique, I want you practicing control strokes. For your pattern, what pattern do I want you to do? I want you to do paradiddles. And for coordination, I want you to work on your swing pattern. That could just be this. Or you can add your other limbs if you're ready for that. For week 3, I want you to work on your upstrokes. For your technique, for your pattern, I want you doing not doubles, not singles, not paradiddles. I want you to work on right, left, left, and that's all you do. Or if you're a lefty, go ahead and do left, right, right. But this is all you do. Just right, left, left, right, left, left, right, left, left, right, left, left. For your coordination, I want you doing something a little bit different. I want you to do singles on top and then your kick drum just on the first one. Don't worry, I know I haven't given you area 4 yet, but it's coming in a little bit. But here's the thing about week 4. Week 4, I want you to do rebound strokes for your technique. I want you to do singles for your pattern, and I want you to do your 8th note beats again for your coordination. Now what's that? That's week 1. And that's the important thing, is that you're making sure that you don't get too far away from the things that you should be focused on a ton when you're starting out, really mastering the fundamentals. So you're going to do 3 weeks that are 3 different things, and then on week 4, you're coming back to the first thing. When you really have this stuff down, you can introduce some new elements, but I really want you thinking about week 1, 2, and 3. You're doing one thing in each category the entire week, and then week 4 is the same as week 1. You're going to find, and this is the magical thing, you're going to find that when you come back around to week 1 stuff on week 4, that you're better than when you stopped doing it. You're better than when you stopped week 1 patterns and went to week 2. You're literally going to feel better at all those things. And that's because our brains, whenever we stop practicing, our brains process while we rest. So literally on week 4, you're starting those week 1 patterns again, and you're going to be better than when you stopped the end of week 1 working on those things. So what's area 4? Well, like I said, I want you focusing on the first 3 areas if your time is very limited. Area 4, if you have the time, is musical application. Eventually, this becomes absolutely essential, but I find that most drummers, when they're just starting out, they're learning songs, and when they've been playing for 10 years, they're learning songs for their band or for their gig, and they're forgetting to improve the fundamentals. So you need time for it, but make sure you don't skip the rest, because everything is built off of those fundamentals, areas 1, 2, and 3. Musical application in itself, what does that mean? Musical application can be learning songs, practicing songs, working on your feel and your groove. That should be part of coordination and timing and patterns and all that sort of stuff. But musical application is you actually make sure you're applying it in a musical manner. It could be rehearsing with your band. It could be jamming with people down the street. It could be jamming with the guitarist down the street. It could just be practicing songs in your bedroom. Here's the important thing. Go deep, pick fewer things. So if you have the luxury of time to work on musical application, area 4, and you don't need to learn a bunch of songs for your next gig, then work on one thing. Choose one song and work on it for a full week. Go deep on that. Maybe day 1, you're perfecting the groove in the verse. Day 2, you're adding the groove in the chorus. Day 3, you're analyzing each fill, so you make sure that you have them all really nailed. And then days 4, 5, 6, 7, you're getting the feel right. You're getting into the flow of things. So go deep with this stuff and don't just scatter your attention across dozens of songs or too many musical ideas that you're like, oh, that would be nice. And then you forget to go deep with fewer things, because the deeper you go, the better you get. If you stay on the surface of things, then improvement becomes really hard to make, and you're just going to waste lots of time in the practice room. Most drummers are working way too hard to play fast. You're tensing up, gripping the sticks tighter, using more energy, and somehow getting slower the harder you try. Sound familiar? What if playing lightning fast fills could actually feel effortless? Like your hands are moving on their own while you just sit back and watch. That's exactly what happens when you learn this simple system of 3-note patterns that make those fast fills easier than a White Stripes beat. In this lesson, I'll show you the patterns that let you play blazing fast around the kit, the exact 7-day routine that hardwires these patterns into autopilot mode, and how to literally play twice as fast with half the effort. Let me show you exactly how this works. This is the triad matrix, and it's super simple. We're talking combinations of 3 notes using right, left, and kick. Now, we'll get to the entire matrix later, because first we want to focus on just a few of these patterns like right, left, left, right, right, left, and left, right, right. By the way, I made a PDF with all the patterns from the triad matrix. Grab it below to follow along. Here's why this is so powerful for playing with less effort. When you practice these 3-note cells until they're automatic, your brain doesn't have to process every single note anymore. Instead of thinking right, left, left, right, right, left, right, left, whatever it is at high speed, which is exhausting by the way, you just think A, B, A, where A is right, left, left, and B is right, right, left. You're basically creating shortcuts in your brain, and when your brain works less, your hands can move faster on autopilot. Let's start with just 2 patterns from the matrix. Pattern A is right, left, left, and pattern B is right, right, left. These 2 patterns alone can create insane combinations. Check this out. If you play A, B, B, A, B, A, B, B, you get... That's a killer 1-bar phrase that sounds complex, but it's literally just A's and B's shuffled around. My drum hub student, Chris, has been playing for decades, but couldn't break through a speed barrier. After just 7 days of practicing these patterns the way I'm about to show you, his transformation was incredible. He went from struggling with fast fills to playing them effortlessly, and you're about to learn the exact same system that he used. So here's how you burn these patterns into muscle memory without even trying hard. Leave a comment below. What day of the routine are you on? I want to see your progress through the week. Day 1, just play pattern A for your entire practice session. Nothing else, just right, left, left. Set a timer for at least an hour and just groove on right, left, left at a comfortable tempo. Don't rush it. Break it into 2 30-minute sessions if you want, but you're not allowed to play any other patterns. Day 2, 60 minutes of just B, right, right, left. Again, break it up if you want to. And if you have more time, do another 15 minutes of A, then a break, and then 15 minutes of B. Day 3, now we shrink it down. I want you to do 10 minutes straight of A, 10 minutes of B, then go back to A, back to B. Keep alternating for your entire practice session. Don't do anything else. Maybe even pause the video, do this day, and then come back for day 4 tomorrow. Once you've got the patterns down, practice them with dynamics. Play pattern A, right, left, left, by accenting the single right and ghosting the 2 lefts. For pattern B, I want you to ghost the 2 rights and accent the single left. This is huge for making your speed actually sound good. Okay, next it's time to combine them a little bit more, but into bigger sections. So I want you to play 4 bars of straight A's, right, left, left, right, left, left, and then 4 bars of just the B's, right, right, left, right, right, left. At this point, you can probably do 30 minutes at a slow tempo and then 30 minutes at a faster one. Day 5, shrink it down some more. We're going to do 1 bar of A, 1 bar of B, alternating. Day 6, now we're getting somewhere. Play A, B, A, B within the same bar, so just 1 of each. And yes, this is a 6-stroke roll, but it's not going to be when you're done with it. Day 7 is when the magic happens. I want you to play a whole bunch of A, B, B for several minutes, and then more of A, B like the last day. And then after 30 minutes of just A, B, B or just A, B, put it all together as A, B, B, A, B, A, B, B. Now you're combining them seamlessly, and it feels as easy as picking up a drumstick because you've programmed each piece so deeply. Once you've got these patterns locked in, we're going to make your fills sound like this. The first step is getting your dynamics under control. Playing fast is one thing, but if all your notes are the same volume, it's kind of just noise. If your doubles, like the left-left in A, aren't even in terms of timing and volume, you'll want to work on your open-close technique. I've got a whole video on that linked below. I'm going to show you the full triad matrix in a moment, but first let's get your kick drum into the mix because this is where things get really fun. Now that A and B feel automatic, level them up by substituting your kick drum. So pattern A, right, left, left, becomes either right kick, kick, or kick, left, left, left kick, kick, or left, left kick. So try playing A, B, B, A, B, A, B, B with these substitutions. In fact, we're going to introduce C, which is kick, kick, left in this case. So now we're going to take A, B, B, A, B, A, B, B and turn it into A, B, C, A, B, A, B, C. Because C is a kick substitution, we're now playing right, left, left, right, right, left, kick, kick, left for A, B, C, followed by right, left, left, right, right, left, and then A, B, C again, right, left, left, right, right, left, kick, kick, left. Now, that's a full bar of blazing fast notes that sound incredibly complex, but you built it from just 3 simple patterns. want you to remember, each kick substitution creates a new pattern that needs its own practice time. So don't rush to string them together. Master each 3-note cell first. All right, so these patterns are just the beginning. The complete triad matrix includes every possible 3-note combination of right, left, and kick. That might sound overwhelming, but here's the thing. You don't need all of them. I've highlighted the most useful ones in the PDF, and honestly, if you just master 4 or 5 patterns really well, you'll have more speed and vocabulary than 99% of drummers out there. The first 2 patterns I showed you today, A and B, are absolutely the best starting point for this. Master those first before exploring the rest of the matrix. If your playing gets sloppy when you speed up, you're working too hard, so slow it back down until it's clean and relaxed again. Remember, we're going for less effort here. You should be able to play any pattern perfectly if you take it slow enough. Speed isn't about pushing harder, it's about training your brain to handle dozens of notes without conscious effort. You don't want to have to think about them. If your shoulders are creeping up, if your doubles sound uneven, if you're death gripping the sticks, these are all signs that you need to back off the tempo and focus on staying loose. And don't forget to grab the Triad Matrix PDF. It's got all the patterns organized so you can start with the easiest ones and work your way up. Just start with those 7 days of focused practice on each pattern, keep coming back to this video, and suddenly fills that used to tie your hands in knots feel like you're barely trying. Most drummers never discover this, they just keep grinding away, trying to muscle through fast passages. But now you know, real speed comes from programming these patterns so deep that they happen automatically. But here's the thing, if your basic technique has problems, even these patterns won't save you. You might be making some mistakes that kill your speed without even knowing it. So if you want to prevent those mistakes from ever happening, watch this video next.